So this is the 9th verse through the 17th verse. And if you've ever been around a good friend, sometimes they can be repetitive, right? They might share a story a couple of times until you know it so well, you could tell it yourself. Jesus says, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another." This is the word of God, and it can be trusted. Thanks be to God. True friendship. True friendship. What does that mean? Why is that even significant? I think it's significant because in this scripture, there's this verse that just leapt out at me. When Jesus says in verse 15, "I do not call you servants any longer, because a servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I've heard from my Father." In the spirit of this season, graduation, Mother's Day, weddings, friendship seems to be a common theme that would be helpful in all three aspects of those seasons of life, isn't it? I mean, when you think about what do you want to send children off into the world with, yeah, you really want them to have some good friends, right? Hopefully we're teaching them and passing on things so that they'll know when the friends that are good and healthy for them have arrived, or how to be such friend that they attract those people and build those relationships. I think another thing is at Mother's Day, who was your very first who was your very first friend? The person who loved and listened and cared about you and doted on you and gave you all the things that you might need. Now, we call them mothers, and mothers don't necessarily have to be your best friend. In fact, they still have to be a parent, right? We know some of those good skills. But that key relationship in your life, a parental relationship that can really be the model of how you begin to understand how friendship works. And then, just in the spirit of it's May and June is not far from us, and summer and weddings and all the things that come together often throughout the year, but particularly when school's out, we have these big events about people who want to be each other's best friend for life. And what does that look like? And here it is. Jesus has given us a piece of scripture that applies to all major events in our lives surrounding this relationship called friendship. It's all about love. If you keep my commandments, if you abide in it and I abide in you, the Father's commands, if you follow what God has given us as good rules of covenant and friendship, if you do these things, your joy is going to be made complete, because Jesus wants his joy to be in us. What an amazing gift. So, if I was going to make a list out of this one text of the things that I would want my teenagers in the room to know, that I'd want my children to know, and folks in marriages to know, here is a super good characteristic when you know that you've got a friend. Because if that friend has joy and wants to make sure you have the same kind of joy, sounds kind of Jesus-like to me. Don't you want to be around people who want to increase and complete your joy? See, Jesus does a status change for a reason. And I think it has something to do with this very first characteristic and gift that he gives. He says, I'm not calling you servants any longer. We don't use servant language a lot. We know what customer service is and isn't, I bet, right? We know what hired hands look like in different industries. We know who calls the shots depending on which kind of industry you are in, based on their authority and whether or not they have a role that is directed by a leader, master in this particular context of the scripture. But think about that big shift from what it means to be a servant of someone and what it means to be a friend of someone. Because Jesus takes that leap here, and I just think it's really important. And part of that is because he wants the disciples' joy to be complete in them. I want that kind of friend in my life, don't you? Someone who wants my joy to be complete. Look for those folks. If you keep reading and you move into that shift from servant to friend, we know that there's no greater love than to lay down a life for a friend. That's just the self-sacrificing kind of generosity that a friend may have the character to kind of set aside their need for the need of the other. But then there's this knowing piece that I really am intrigued about. So the shift from servant to friend is all about knowing what's going on. You become a friend when you know the commands. You become a friend when you're following those commands. But you become a friend of Jesus because I've chosen to call you friends, and because you are going to be in the know. I've made them known to you everything. I appointed you to go and bear fruit. He is giving this relationship a whole new level of responsibility, a whole new level of intimacy. He's going to know and be known in this relationship. Different from a servant, right? Servant just needs to obey. Servant doesn't ask questions. Servant is sent to do and to get it done, right? But a friend knows what's going on. The master has shifted and is letting them in on the purpose, why they're doing it. It requires this higher level relationship, doesn't it? When you move from the customer service person who's delivering something for you to someone who you're treating and establishing as a friend. Jesus wants to be our friend. Does that sit well with everybody? I have known people in my life who they love the image of Jesus being a friend. Me, I am more comfortable living with God as the big sovereign Lord, master of the universe, holding the stars in line, that demands a reverence from us in a way that is not necessarily in my image of friendship. Now, I do revere friends. We can get to that. But when I think of my image of Jesus as Lord and Savior, friendship is another level that I think he's ramping us up for in terms of engagement. And so the level of intimacy becomes very individual, I think, in this context. Friendship has an intimacy and a vulnerability that is easier to access than the sovereign Lord sitting on the throne, right? If we can grasp this change of master servant to friend, mutual and intimate, all of a sudden our access to Jesus gives us a way to say, oh, well, I guess my prayers are important. You don't have that thought in your head going, oh, don't worry about it. Lord, you're holding the stars up in the heavens. I mean, why would you want to, hear me babble on about what happened this past week? Right? I mean, sometimes we go there, but when we cultivate that intimate friendship and see that relationship as a friendship that starts with a desire to make our joy complete, all of a sudden the access feels different to God. The relationship has those characteristics of true friendship. So what's different between the servant and the friend? What is the characteristics that come to your mind when you think about your great friends, people who you share your story with? What comes to mind? That's not a pondered in your head. This is, interactive, shouted out from the back pew, whatever. Trust, absolutely. Support. A listener, people who listen. And not listen so that they can tell you the next, but listen. A confidant. It's all those agape, the love, the agape love, the friendship love. It's those characteristics. Friends that are honest, helpful, and mutual. I think the trust is also, another way to say that is full integrity. They're people who do what they say and say what they do. Committed in a way that they follow through. There's all those healthy things. But we know that when we're looking for friends and understanding Jesus as a friend, we are human beings, right? And even on my best days, I'm probably a mediocre friend. But Jesus gives us friendship in a way that we can strive toward it, and the promise and the reward of that is that our joy is complete. There's great value in what happens when Jesus shifts us from servant to friend. When we graduated from high school, our church gave us gifts and books, and one of them was The Friendship Factor by Alan Loy McGinnis, and it's a beautiful book. I think it was copyrighted in 1979, but it became invaluable. It is just such a wonderful way to begin to look at your relationships, and he speaks in one of his chapters of the value, just the pure value of friendship. Makes you healthier. We know this, right? It makes you more successful in work life. when you operate in a friendship level with people. There's studies that he quoted from, the Carnegie Institute of Technology. I love this. They did a study, and it said in a field of engineering that about 15% of one's financial success is due to one's technical knowledge, and about 85% is due to the skill in human engineering, which I am going to call friendship making, being a friend, acting as a friend. That's phenomenal, isn't it? You know, that when people were released from jobs because of incompetence, the same study talked about the discharge was happening because it wasn't a technical incompetence that got him into trouble, but it was social incompetence. Friendship, it's important to learn how to do it and do it well. It's rewarding and valuable. And it actually extends your life. There's studies on how it extends your life. So Jesus knows what he's doing when he says, I'm changing it. Our relationship is different, and you're going to know what I'm doing. That is a fabulous characteristic to look for in friends. They give you their story. They give you information. I call that transparent, if you will, but more so disclosing in a way that you can join in and enjoy the ride with that friend. That loving one another is about letting them know. So then later in McGinnis's book, he deals with this chapter on what happens when we get stale in our friendship. And Jesus knew that these disciples were about to be on a journey where he wasn't going to be fully present in the physical sense. And I think he was like saying, okay, for the long haul, you got to remember some of these things. And McGinnis picks up on I think one of the greatest failures sometimes of us as humans is we get comfortable and we assume we have friends. We have church friends. We have people we know. We have acquaintances. We see each other on a Sunday or in the grocery store. But to really give time and build that ta-da! Never go without batteries in your pocket, people. Friends can get comfortable, right? We can get comfortable with each other, and especially in long-term friendships, we sometimes forget. And so McGinnis gives us like these three areas that I believe build intimacy in friendships. And what I learned from is like, just keep asking questions, because I forget to ask questions. You know, I get real focused on doing and getting things done. You know, that can be my frame. And he says, we build intimacy, we build that friendship relationship by sharing facts with each other. Facts. Share facts with your friends. I went to Mooton's yesterday, you know, or whatever, you know, just general facts. But then we also have to share our opinions and beliefs. Food was really good. I think I might have added a little bit of this or a little bit of that. It's disclosing and sharing who you are, what your likes, what your differences are, right? That's where we get vulnerable. That's where being church friends can get scary for us, right? We can love and be in relationship and have friends, but then when you start really getting to know one another, and I think that's where Jesus is saying, my relationship with you is going to be so much deeper. I don't want it to be this casual servicing kind of thing as an acquaintance. I want you to be fully engaged, and you know what I've said about my Father. And I'm going to want you to share it with other people. Love one another. And so we do that. We can build the skills of talking about the things going on, facts in our lives, opinions and beliefs. But the hard one is feelings. Sharing your feelings with people. It's such a scary thing because you never know what the response is going to be. But you get a friend who's able to sit with your feelings and not judge them or question them, but just let you feel it and then love you when it's all said and done. That's huge, isn't it? Can you imagine Jesus sitting with his disciples and them sharing their feelings like, we are scared to death, Lord. We don't have a clue what you're doing. Stop that crazy talk about, going to a cross or something. If Jesus had come back with, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, that would have severed that intimate relationship pretty quick, wouldn't it? So validating those feelings and I just think we sometimes forget to craft that in our day with those that are close to us and even those that we would like to deepen our friendships with, but especially the friendship that Christ is offering us. Just like I said, sometimes it's hard to say, Jesus, I'm kind of hurt. And let me tell you why. Because my pride was stepped on last week when I realized that not everybody holds the same reverence to ordination that I have. Because you can get ordained for, I don't know, $29.95 on the internet. That gives you all kinds of credentials to do stuff in the name of that. But this one right here was kind of hurt. I was like, Lord, I had to talk to my friend. I needed to be able to be honest and then know that it's okay for me to have that sense and for someone else to have a different sense of importance. But boy, I was like, well, I went to school 3 years for a master's degree. Okay, we're just saying that's just the master's part. I mean, seriously, I was in a cranky place. But God holds that in the Jesus friend for me so much more faithfully than the Lord of hosts who says, really, like you have any credentials whatsoever. Does that make sense? Honestly, I did the measuring at a state track meet a week ago. I've never even been to a track meet, okay? That's what really helped me. I realized they just wrote me in, and I have no credentials whatsoever for this. Let God be the sovereign who puts you in places where you can learn and grow, but we got to have this Jesus who will sit with us and let us just, yeah. This is what's going on in my life today, Lord. And I need my friend to listen and then let me sit with it long enough for the heart to catch up and be healed and grow and know that I've been held in the love of a friend, right? That's Jesus's gift today. So when Jesus says, my relationship with you is next level, I mean, it is next level engagement. And it will require all kinds of giving and receiving and practicing our words with what our actions are. but it will deepen our relationship in ways that will just make joy complete. That's what is so valuable. Will you pray with me? Gracious God, when you call us to live with Christ, you have called us to live with a friend, and we are so grateful for that. And so, Lord, be with us now as we continue to take that spirit of friendship into our relationships and into our world in the week ahead. Help us to be faithful in abiding with you so that that fruit that is loving friendship is seen all over the place. We ask it in the power of your Son and in the Spirit. Amen and amen.